Hey, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. Today I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about builders. I know sometimes it can be almost a sport bashing builders and complaining about all the things they do and all the things we don't like about them. But I suppose after, I've built hundreds of houses for clients with heaps and heaps of different builders. And so I thought today I would just, not necessarily make an apology, but maybe let people know about the bit of the background behind why it's so difficult being a builder and why, if you get on Google and you try and work out, looking at various builders, there's always going to be someone out there with a bad thing to say about a particular builder. And some of these builders are really awesome builders. But it's just, at the end of the day, it's pretty hard running a building company. So I thought I'd just take you through what's involved in running a building company, and hopefully you can understand how difficult it can be. And hopefully that means when you find a builder, you go a bit easier on them and just accept, everything's not always going to be perfect and there's some things that you can't predict from the start. So first thing to understand about builders is that, they don't necessarily know everything up front. And so a lot of people just assume that when they're talking to a builder, they should be able to tell them everything up front and it should be all fixed price and should be guaranteed. And that's what clients want to hear, and that's what builders want to give clients. And so they're inclined to market in a way that they say fixed price guaranteed. In reality, though, it can't be fixed price guarantee. You don't really even know. I've got clients that have come to me in the past where, they haven't even bought a block of land yet, and they've talked to the builder, and the builder's saying we can fix the price and it's guaranteed. But if you haven't bought a block of land yet, you don't know what block of land you're building on. If you're building on a block of land which is hanging off the side of a cliff, how are you going to know what the cost of that's going to be relative to a block of land which is a flat block of land, down by the sea? There's so many variations with building, and land is just one of those things. On top of that, you've got the council requirements, you've got, bushfire ratings, you get wind ratings, you get a whole pile of different things, energy efficiency ratings. Hey Melissa, thanks for joining. All these different things which can add to the complexity of trying to build a house. And basically what people want to do, they want to walk into a display home, talk to a sales guy, sorry I bumped that, talk to a sales guy for about 30 seconds and then get the sales guy to give them a fixed price on what the house is going to cost to build. So, in reality, there's just no way they can do that. Without a whole pile of information and doing a lot of research, they can't really give that sort of fixed price. So first thing we need to know is things that are a major variation where a lot of people have complaints about is the footings of the house. So the footings is the, what people call the concrete slab, or when they see them dig out all these trenches and pour the concrete down, they have that flat pile of concrete they build on top of. So when that's actually designed by an engineer. So an engineer doesn't even know how they're going to design that until they do a contour plan. So the contour plan is like the levels of the blocks. They know how all the ups and downs all over the block. And also they do a soil test to work out what the soil is made out of and what they call reactive the soil is. So that's how much the soil moves when during summertime and wintertime and all that sort of stuff. Thanks for the like. If anyone else likes what I'm saying, then feel free to click on the like button. And even if you don't, then click on the like button anyway. It'll make me try a bit harder. And so, so if you, so that's the first thing. You don't really know what the footing's going to cost. So saying that though, builders do have a rough idea. So you would hope that builders give you a realistic estimate, not just a really low estimate, just trying to win the job. So that is one of the dangers. But hopefully, if your builder's being realistically honest, they can give you a build that they've done, the next street over or quite close, that can act as a bit of a guide of what they think your footings might be. So that's the first thing. Like I mentioned, the other things are things like the wind rating. They can gain that information really quickly. It's actually done by zones within the building code, so you can actually pick a certain suburb and know exactly what wind rating you need to allow for. They should be able to allow for that up front. The bushfire ratings, they should be able to research that pretty quickly to find out whether they have to deal with any bushfire ratings. Some other things that cause complexity down the track are things like stormwater, retaining walls, fencing, all that sort of stuff. To be honest, they're not going to know a lot of that stuff until the engineer designs does the engineering report, because the engineering report is going to do, as well as the site and drainage plan showing where the water is going to be flowing to. It also does the retaining walls, the levels of the block, whether they have to raise the house up or lower the house down. They're going to need to work that out before they can do the footings report and all that sort of stuff. So understand, and within the first 10 minutes of meeting a sales guy, he can't give you a fixed price guaranteed because he doesn't know. And even once you've bought the block of land, no one really knows until that you've done the contour plan from the the surveyor, and you've got someone go out and do a soil test, and the engineer designs the footing plan. So, and then they can design whether you need any retaining walls. They can do the site and drainage plan, which is going to show where the water's going to go, and that can then decide whether you need any tanks and pumps and all that sort of stuff to try and pump the water around the block and all these other things. The problem with all these things that they're quite important, and they can add tens of thousands of dollars, up to $50,000 to the price of your house. So that's why it's really important to get some of this information up front. And the difficulty you can imagine from the builder is when people wanting a fixed price when you don't know that information, then it's pretty hard to guarantee. So the next thing that makes it really hard for a builder is they don't necessarily know what specifications you want included in the house. Quite often when you look at display homes, they've included the best thing they possibly can, but they understand you want the cheapest price of the house, so they quote you sometimes plastic things in the house, or sometimes they leave out things that you probably would assume are already in there. So that's some of the other dangers when you're getting a quote from a builder, is you're seeing their display home, which might not necessarily be what's included in your house. And then once the house is built, you get really angry with the builders saying, hey, well, it didn't have what I expected to be in the house, when in reality it probably was included in the specification, but you had assumptions that it was including certain things that weren't included. So all those things, to be honest, I'm not so stressed about that. That's not the reason I wouldn't want to have my own building company. The main reason I wouldn't want to have my own building company is, well, two things, in fact. The first thing is cash flow, like how you try and fund the whole build thing. The problem you have with a builder is they're only allowed to get a small amount of money up front to start the build, like a deposit. Sometimes that can be $5,000 or $10,000, generally less than 5% of the purchase price, which is, that's only covering the cost of, like I mentioned, the engineering plans, that they do full working drawings, they do council approvals, any other specifications they need to get done. So that's what that amount's covering. So that doesn't go into their pocket. They don't use that to go toward any profit as far as they're concerned. So imagine they've met someone at a display home, the sales guys talk to them, they've played around with some plans, they've gone backwards and forwards, you've signed up to build with them, they've done all the full working drawings, they've done the engineering, they've done the council approvals, they've done all the the electrical plan, the plumbing plan, all these, you've done all your selections, done all these really detailed things which have taken hours, tens of hours, probably hundreds of hours of the builder's time up, and you haven't actually paid them any money at all. You've paid them a deposit, but in reality that money doesn't go towards them, that just goes towards covering some of the costs of some of the external parties which are providing that information towards the build. So you can see they've committed a huge amount of time and effort and expense to try and, even before they've even started building. Hey Shani, thanks for joining. And they haven't they haven't actually made any money yet. And so this is actually a legal thing. They can't actually charge you anything up front to build the house. They can only get paid as the house is being built. So basically that means that until the slab goes down, they can't charge you for the slab. And then until the frame goes up, they can't charge you for the frame. So that means for them, imagine if they put imagine the footings cost $50,000 to put down. They've got to spend the $50,000 up front. They'll send you a bill for $50,000, and then they get paid, reimbursed for that amount that they've spent out. So, and imagine, from my perspective, if suddenly they sent you that bill and you had an issue with something, or you weren't happy about something, or suddenly your lender has an issue with something, and then this gets delayed for whatever reason. Imagine that's $50,000 they're waiting to get paid, but they've already spent the money out. And imagine that's just one house they're building. Imagine, thanks Shani. Imagine they built 10 houses, so $50,000 on one house. Imagine they got 10 houses. Suddenly it's $500,000. Let's imagine if this is a builder that's building 100 houses and it's $50,000 each, then suddenly that's $500,000. So you can imagine cash flow perspective. They put a huge amount of money out. In theory, you're meant to pay them within 7 working days. But if there's any delays, from any of those people, then you're going to start to have issues with cash flow. They can get funding, like finance, that's trying to cover some of that. But again, there's only a really short-term funding. And so that will cost them money to get that funding to try and cover that shortfall. And if suddenly you imagine someone has an issue with their finance that's delayed them by, not just a week, but 2 weeks, and then a month, and then 3 weeks, that starts dragging out. Hey, Dave, thanks for joining. Then as that gets dragged out, it's just going to create more and more stress on the builder. And the weird thing is, for a builder, you'd imagine the better thing, the the more houses the builder builds, the better it would be for the builder. But in reality, the more houses the builder builds, the more stress that puts in their cash flow, because suddenly they put 2 slabs and 3 slabs and 4 slabs, and suddenly if they did 10 slabs all down within that 1 week, they got 10 clients they're waiting to pay them for that week. So in reality, the more houses they build, the more stress they get. And then suddenly you can imagine that's on every stage of the build. You know, they get the frame going up, they get the brickwork going up, they've got the, you know, all the, what they call the first fix, all the internal lighting, all the second fix, and all these other things are all slowly building. They're spending more and more money, and they're not getting paid until after they get the job done. So you can imagine a builder, you know, probably, you know, in Adelaide, probably, you know, a relatively big builder would build 100 houses a year. Some of the bigger builders might build 700, 800 houses a year. So you can imagine cash flow wise, they've literally got millions of dollars of debt sitting out there waiting to get paid at any one point in time. So the stress from that, all you need is a few people to not pay you, and suddenly that creates problems, because you've basically got to get paid before you can go and put the slab down for the next client, and you've got to get paid from the first client for the brickwork so you can put the slab down for the next client. So suddenly you get this cycle. If I don't get paid by one person, I can't put the slab down for the next person. Creates this stress on the builder, constantly looking to, I've got to get paid, I've got to get paid. So you can sort of imagine why, you know, builders get a little bit narky when people don't pay them on time, and why they can get a bit aggressive sometimes when you know, there's this pressure on them constantly to try and make sure they're signing up new people, because if they don't sign up new people, they're not going to be able to, you know, have their next job lined up. But likewise, they're also a little bit apprehensive about signing up the next person, because that's another job they have to pay for up front before they actually get paid for. So my advice to you as a builder, but also you as a person looking at builders, really the key for that is for builders to build consistent amount of houses all the time, and that's their aim really. If you're building 100 houses a year, they really want to do, you know, let's say the 120 houses a year, they want to do 10 a month, and then they know they got, you know, in theory the money comes in for one lot and then it goes out for the next one, in for the next lot, in for the other, so they can just keep their cash flow going. The problem comes for a builder if suddenly 1 week they're doing 100 houses, you know, one time they're doing 100 houses per year, and suddenly doing 200 houses the following year. So that suddenly means not just their cash flow gets blown out, but suddenly all their staffing levels get blown out. They have to find new tradies, new contractors, they got new suppliers to try and cover all that sort of cost. So it just creates this massive tension. Really, if you know, you don't really want to be building lots of houses. And the other issue is suddenly if they're building 100 houses one year and suddenly they go down to 50 houses the next year, they've got all this staff, they build up all this system ready for 100 houses, suddenly it goes down to 50, they can't just sack everybody and say, okay, well, we can't employ you for this next 12 months because we only got 50, because it might build up again for the next 12 months. So it creates this tension on cash flow that's just, you know, that's why quite often you'll see, you know, builders going broke all the time. Well, not quite often, but occasionally you will see, particularly when the market gets tight, is because they're trying to create that consistency. And if something happens which is beyond their control, where the market just turns or for whatever reason finances change, it creates this stress on their business, which might not have anything to do with them as a business or the way they run their business, but cash flows just stretch them so tight they can't stretch any further, and then all they need is their bank to say, no, we're not going to fund you to try and cover that shortfall, and then they're stuck. You know, and then they end up, you know, trying to delay your build as long as they can, because they can't afford to put the next stage down before they can do the next stage. And then that's when you get angry. They started delaying the build, and you're like, why haven't they built my house? They're meant to get it done in, you know, 18 weeks or whatever it's supposed to be. And then it creates this constant stress and tension. And before you know it, you're onto Facebook telling all your friends, worst build ever. They took, you know, 12 months to build my house. I'm sitting around here waiting, blah, blah, blah. And so before you know it, they're getting a really bad reputation, when it might not be anything related to the builder themselves. It might have just been a cash flow squeeze. The danger of all this stuff is the builder, you know, even if the builder gets through all this massive stress of trying to work out how they can manage all their finances and their cash flow, trying to get to the end when they can get the house finally finished off, you know, they can do, there's thousands of things, you know, probably hundreds, tens of thousands of things probably involved in building a house. You know, if you look at all the different materials, but all the different tradies they're trying to juggle and manage and through the whole process, all they have to do is get one thing of those things wrong, and it could be something ridiculously small, and it's something you'll remember for the rest of the time, and then you'll tell all your friends about it. It might have been something really small, like, you know, in the bathroom, you asked for a chrome little drain pipe in there, and then they put a plastic one in there. you know, and they might have said to you, hey, well, in the quote, it included plastic one. We told you it was plastic one. We all agreed it was plastic one. And you might go, no. We had this conversation. We said we're going to put a chrome one in there. You agreed it was going to be in there. I'm sure it was going to be in. And before you know it, you're arguing over this chrome little drain. And then the builder's like, no. It's written here in the contract. You're yes. And then before you know it, the builder's done 10,000 other things perfect. He's managed to scrape through all his bills, trying to get it all done, organise all his trades. Everything was unbelievable, except for this little chrome drain. You know, the question for them is, do they go back and just fix it, just to deal with it? The problem is they might have 100 other builds with similar sort of little tiny things, and that's what happens over time when builders can get a bit nucky, and if they've been doing it for too long, they just get to the point where they just had enough, and they're like, nah, we've got in the contract, says plastic one, you've agreed, you've signed off. Too bad. I don't care if it's, you know, whether you want that or not. It's too much effort. We're going to have to rip out all the pipes. We're going to have to waterproof all the plumbing in the bathroom. It's going to cost me $10,000 to fix it now. You know, you're just going to have to deal with the plastic thing, because as far as we're concerned, we've done everything right. And in theory, they have done everything right. It's probably all been documented. It's probably, if they went to court, they would probably be in the right. But as far as you're concerned, you don't want this dodgy little plastic drain pipe sitting in your bathroom and you've spent, you know, $20,000 on these porcelain tiles that look amazing. And so before you know it, all your friends come over your house. They go, oh man, what happened with the plastic drain pipe? You suddenly start getting on, you know, some forum or YouTube or Facebook, just starting to tell all your friends, hey, they didn't even come back and fix the drain pipe when it was all wrong, you know. So you can see how difficult it will be for a builder. They're juggling all these cash flow things. They're juggling all their tradies. They're juggling all the materials. They're juggling, trying to get everything perfect. One little thing goes wrong, and when in reality, it probably may or may not have been their fault, you know, potentially not, or potentially it could have been, but at the end of the day, who knows? But theoretically, they're in the right, because they could go to court and argue they're in the right, but at the end of the day, because you're unhappy, they're in the wrong. And you're going to tell all your friends they're unhappy, and before you know it, they've got posts on Facebook saying, don't go to this guy, dodgy builder, you know, wouldn't even fix my drain pipe. So you can see how difficult it would be being a builder, and hopefully that's made sense to you guys why I wouldn't want to be a builder. And that's why, even though I'm out there helping clients shop around between builders and help them negotiate with builders, I do that with the perspective. I understand how difficult it is to be a builder, and I'm working with the client to try and get the client the best deal, but I'm working with the client just to make sure their expectations are really clear up front, and also making sure that we get all the information up front from the builder to know exactly what they're going to include and what they're not going to include. So there's not little surprises down the track that they're not including certain things. So when I go out talking to a builder, I know what the specifications are. I know what they include. I know whether they've got the chrome little drain in the bathroom or not. And so I've quoted my houses to a certain specification. We're not going to get surprised down the track that we're going to have plastic little things in the house and we get caught out. So hopefully you guys feel a bit sorry for the builders. You know, maybe you don't, but hopefully you understand some of the complexity associated with being a builder and why it is a bit hard. So if you've liked what I said, if you're a builder, you're probably clicking like 100 times because you probably understand the pain. If you're not a builder, you're probably clicking the big mean face because you probably hate builders anyway. But if you're not either of those people, then you might want to click like, and hopefully you've got some interesting knowledge out of this little rant. And then if you haven't liked it, then still click on the like button. I'll try a bit harder for next time. If you would like me to talk about something next time, then click on the little comment button. I'm happy to talk about something else you'd like to talk about, whether it's related to building or developing or investing or buying property or selling property. I can, because I do heaps of stuff, I'm happy to have a chat about whatever you want to talk about. So, and if you have someone that might be struggling with this situation now, they're arguing with the builder, then maybe you want to click on the share button, and then maybe they'll see it from the perspective of the builder. They probably still don't care, but at least they'll have a bit more patience with them, hopefully. So thanks guys for joining, and hopefully you found it useful, and I look forward to joining with you again soon. Bye.